we got the basics of animals now. You got all the characteristics. You figured out what different layers are. You've got how they're going to be delineated, how they're going to be classified. We're going to talk about two groups now. And now we're getting to the point where not everything in this is super important. I'm giving you a lot of examples, and I'm going to go very quickly. Talk a bit about sponges. Sponges live in the ocean. Imagine what the sea level would be like if there were no sponges. They are parazoans, and they lack true tissues. So these guys don't have specialized cell types. They're individual cells working together. The way they feed is they've got these choanocyte cells that look just like choanoflagellates backing up against amoebocyte cells that, go figure, look like amoeba. So these choanocyte cells have their flagella whip in one direction, creating a current that pulls water into the sponge. Then they're able to knock food into the choanocyte that then gets pushed into the amoebocyte and spread through the rest of the organism. Sponges have lots of holes through them, just like a sponge, right? They're going to filter water by bringing in food, nutrients, and then using those nutrients to grow. Sponges actually, even though they look, weak, they don't do much, they don't move around as adults. They are animals though, so as larvae they do move. But as adults, they don't. They stay in one spot. And organisms would love to eat sponges. They're simple, they've got lots of nutrients, so to protect themselves they secrete a protein called spongin that creates these really sharp spikes on them. Now what humans did originally is when we would grab sponges out of the ocean, which we did, we would use them for exfoliation. Like literally, we would, do you guys have a loofah or something in your shower? It's like that, except sponges. Sponges are more expensive. In fact, if you look at, there were these, they almost look like, truthfully, they're gourds. They look like a, all right. So, if you ever go into the bath section of a store, you'll see this long, sort of a, not gray, beige, brownish structure that's got lots and lots of, I'll just draw a picture. So it's got, sometimes it could be up to a foot long, sometimes they put it on a stick, and it's got all of sort of these, it's fibrous looking. You have any idea what I'm talking about? These used to be, okay, no, never. Well then, never mind. Thanks, you know what I'm talking about. One person. Because we've gotten rid of them. We used to use these in order to exfoliate until we started making plastic loofahs, which are way cheaper to make. That structure is, this old structure is based off of a sponge. And it's actually, currently it's a gourd, but it's still used just to exfoliate. The idea is you have sharp spikes of protein that we use on our skin to take off dead skin cells.
I thought they grow them like corn. Like I thought they grew on land.
They do now. They're gourds now.
Because they sell them at farmers markets.
Yep.
I've never been to like a bath store, but
Yeah, go to like Walmart's bath section. They're in there. But the big thing is, I'm sort of dating myself because this was early 2000s, and now we're like, we just got loofahs. They're $1 each. It's cool. Okay, never mind. Let's not talk about sponges anymore. I lost you on that one. Let's talk about jellyfish. Okay, you guys know about jellyfish, right? Like, have you ever encountered a jellyfish? They suck. Jellyfish have two distinct body forms, a polyp and a medusa. The polyp is sort of the baby form, and basically it will swim, land, and start to produce new cells. So they stay in one spot. They're called sessile. They're going to grow and produce these feeding polyps. So the way they grow, have you guys, okay, I know you've done this. You know bugles as a snack? Okay, when you get bugles, you got two things you can do with bugles. One, you put them on your fingers and then you have witch hands. Or two, you start stacking them into each other until you have this giant thing coming off. You know what I'm talking about? Good. You followed me on that one. I don't feel as old. These polyps are like when you stack bugles into each other. Literally, they're stacks of baby jellyfish. And then as they grow, the one at the top will pop off and start swimming. Sorry, that was me swimming as a jellyfish. That top one that popped off then goes on to become a medusa, or the adult free swimming stage. They do not have 3 tissue layers. They only have an endoderm and an ectoderm. So you've got this bell shape to them. You've got a mouth and an anus, and they are the same structure. So basically, you take it in, and you release your waste through the same structure. And all around the edge of a jellyfish, they have sensory receptors. So sort of think like eyes all around that bell. Of course, what we know jellyfish most for is the nematocysts they have. These are specialized cells on their tentacles. The way these cells work is they're sort of like spring-loaded capsules. You've got a group of cells that are coiled tight with a lot of pressure in them. When a trigger is hit on the edge of that nematocyst, it will release. It's going to push itself forward with a lot of force. That's going to push these, I guess you'd consider them almost spikes, up into the organism, and they open up, releasing a thread. That thread injects a toxin into the organism. Usually it's a neurotoxin. It's highly barbed, so it's going to stick. Because basically, you're punctured, and it opens up, so it's not going out. And then it sticks that coil in there to release toxins. Super fun, right? Anybody ever been stung by a jellyfish? Yeah, it sucks. And for some reason, I know exactly where this came from. For some reason, people say, if you get stung by a jellyfish, don't worry. You should pee on it, and that will make it better. That's wrong. That literally came from an episode of Friends. Don't pee on your friends. That's not cool. Unless, you know, they could be into it, whatever. But in general, the reason these hurt so bad is because there's a change in pressure. I was at the beach just a few years back. Like, this is not when I was young. This is like, I'm an adult, I have my own kids. And I was at the beach with my mom and my little sister. And so I was in the water, and I'm like wading along. And I ran into something like, you know, you guys, when you're in the water, you like freak out when you run into something. I was like, I ran into something. Oh, that was probably a plastic bag. I better find that plastic bag that I ran into and take it out because I'm eco-conscious. So then I go wading back through looking for this plastic bag, and I find it. I was like, oh, here's the plastic bag. I pick it up, and it was like a 1.5 foot wide jellyfish. And I looked at it, and I didn't feel the sting at that point. At that point, I was just like, oh, this is going to hurt. I debated at that moment throwing the jellyfish as hard as I could at my sister because I swear to you, you will never grow out of that. But I didn't because I'm a good person, but more importantly, my mom was there. And that's even worse because as you get older, your mom will still tell you exactly what to do and what you're doing wrong. So I was like, crap, I'm stung by a jellyfish. Now I'm starting to feel it. I get out of the water. My mom's like, oh no. What'd she say? Go put cold water on it right away. Go put cold water on it. And I was like, that's not going to help, Mom. And she's like, it's going to help. Go put cold water on it. And I was like, I know it's not going to help. It's not going to help because jellyfish are saltwater animals, right? What happens if you take a cell, you biology students, if you take a cell that's used to salt water, that has a super high salinity in it, and put it into fresh, pure water? Right, the cell's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It's going to pop. It's going to force more toxin into your wound. Yeah. So it's like, Mom, this is exactly how this works. She's like, how do you know that? I was like, because I'm a biologist. What if you put salt on your wounds?
Yeah.
What if you put salt on your wounds?
No, so hear me out, but it's not even like a wound because it's like internal.
Right, well, the thing is, if you put salt on it, I don't know. You'd have to get it just right. But You know what? Next time I get stung by a jellyfish, I'm going to grab a thing of salt that I happen to keep with me on the beach. So my mom told me I had to do it her way, and of course I did, knowing that it was going to hurt more, because honestly at that point, it was worth the pain instead of hearing my mom yell at me more. I'm glad you're all with me on that. But the thing is, what kind of water would you want to use on it? Salt water, the exact same water that cell evolved in. And you happen to, if you're at the beach, have a ton of it around you. That way you can get all the tentacles off. Bear in mind, once you put that cold water on, all the nematocysts that haven't fired will fire. So there we go. Super fun. Don't pee on your friends. That's the takeaway. Unless they ask. The jellyfish does have a complete gut. That is, you can, it will ingest an organism, it will digest the organism, and then expel the remains. Most are bioluminescent. They give off these great colors. If you're out at the ocean and there's no moon, you'll oftentimes be able to see jellyfish glowing at night. The box jelly is the most venomous animal in the world. It will kill you oftentimes before you know you've been stung. Oh, super fun. It's the size of your thumbnail, so you're never going to see it. Yep, Australia. It will kill you. Of course it's in Australia. If you were interested in living forever, Turritopsis nutricula is the only known animal that can live forever. Basically, it starts off as a polyp, it grows into a free-living medusa, and then basically Benjamin Buttons itself back down to a polyp and goes back again. And it repeats the cycle over and over and over again. Its cells never get die of old age. The telomeres never shrink. This is the only known animal that is functionally immortal. The cells die, but the organism doesn't. So you can get down, you shrink, you get bigger. You shrink, you get bigger.
That's like a ship of Theseus, where it's like not even.
Right, except it's like the ship of Theseus, just like you're like the ship of Theseus. I mean, all of your cells are constantly replaced every 2 years. I know, right?
No, they're not. You made that up.
I made that up, except your brain cells.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Sponges are animals that don't move. Medusa do move, so these jellyfish do move. Medusa have 2 tissue layers and sponges have no tissues.